Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to make a request from the Madam Clerk to take the roll.
Supervisor Meehan.
Present.
Councilman Hart.
Present.
Councilman Hanley.
Present.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from July the 15th, 2019 work session.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from July the 15th town board meeting.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Legal notices received and filed for 1 and 2. Any comments from the public regarding communications? Moving on to communications number 1. From Town Attorney Tina Hawthorne requesting a public hearing to be held before the board to repeal Chapter 13 of Town of West Seneca Code and replace it with a new proposed Chapter 13, attaching this proposal for the new ethic code to be the subject of the public hearing.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. I'd like to move from Chief Dens. Kindly appoint Gregory Warner as police officer effective Tuesday, July 30th, 2019 at a training rate of $25.71 per hour and authorize the supervisor to sign the necessary forms with Erie County personnel.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Mr. Warner, you are here. You will be sworn in. Chief, stand up. Congratulations. His family is here with him to celebrate.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Gregory Warner,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of police officer for the town of West Seneca
of police officer for the town of West Seneca
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Good luck to you. Best of luck. Enjoy.
Mom and Dad, brother, congratulations. Now Ken Morano's going to take you out for cake.
I said, listen,
Just so you know, Ken, Tim's is closed right now. You'll have to go to the south gate.
I was going to spa. Nice set.
No, but if you do want to go, you can.
Okay.
And you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. That's why we usually bring you up to the top. So you guys can go out and get some dinner and celebrate because tomorrow morning you're at work.
All right.
Take care. Bill wants to come, he has to stay.
I'd like to take it.
We all like me.
Moving on to Jacqueline Felser, Town Clerk. Kindly change the status of part-time clerk Shauna Finnegan to part-time seasonal effective August 1st through November 30th, 2019, authorizing the supervisor to sign the necessary forms with Erie County personnel.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Next item is from Justice Jeffrey Harrington and Justice Shannon Filbert. Kindly move to authorize the court clerks Maureen Brownsey and Julie Korzinski to attend the 2019 New York State Association of Magistrates Court Clerk Training Conference. Training will be held in Syracuse, New York from September 29th through October 3rd, and this cost shall not exceed $925 each.
Second.
Anything on the question?
Just on the question, I will point out that this is budgeted for number one. And number two, this is mandatory training.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Item number two. Next item, Lauren Massick regarding Katie Roberts and Gabrielle Gillinas. Please accept the resignation of Katie Roberts and Gabrielle Gillinas and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms with Erie County personnel.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. From Laura Devine, please accept the resignation of Jacob Kobler, a part-time position with the town, and authorize the supervisor to sign the necessary forms with Erie County personnel.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. From Chief Dents, please authorize 4 officers to attend New York State Police Juvenile Officers Association training, August 26th through August 30th, 2019 in Lake George. This annual training is an event for the officers that have routinely attended in the past. The cost of this training should not exceed $2,500, and there are sufficient funds in the police training course line.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we're going to ask the Department of Transportation is here with us today, Sonia and Craig, to give a presentation to us regarding, from the DOT, regarding the Clinton Street project. So you can have the floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor. My name is Craig Mosrell, and I'm the Regional Design Engineer here at the Buffalo Regional Office for the Department of
Excuse me, sir.
Transportation.
Can everybody hear? Would you kindly use the microphone?
Sure. Ms. Vaidya and I are here today just to give you a little background on a project that will be taking place starting next year on Clinton Street, running through the whole length of the town of West Seneca. It's starting at the Buffalo City line, and it's actually, that project extends all the way to Two Rod Road in Marilla. So it's a fairly large project. We estimate it's going to cost nearly $10 million, and it's going to affect many different aspects of the roadway, not just paving. It's also going to address some drainage issues, replace one large culvert near the Canisius High School athletic fields, do some guide rail work, improve the signal systems, and add additional facilities to those signals so that it'll be easier for pedestrians to cross, and also to make sure that the curb ramps meet the American with Disabilities Act requirements. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Vaidya, and she's going to talk more about the details, and I will run the PowerPoint for her.
Thank you. So like Craig said, the project extends from Buffalo City line to Two Rod Road. It's about 13 miles in length. There's the location map that shows you the extent of the project.
You might have to hold the mic closer.
Okay.
Thank
Is
you.
that better? Yeah. So the project description, in principle, it's a pavement restoration project. So we are going to mill and resurface the entire length of the project. But in addition to the pavement work, we are going to address a number of different issues. There's a lot of drainage problems in this section of Clinton, so we are going to address the drainage problems. We are going to upgrade the pedestrian facilities as necessary, make the curb ramps ADA compatible, add ped signals where necessary, and then we are also going to upgrade the guide rail and upgrade and or replace some of the traffic signals. We'll get into further details. So as I said, there are various locations where the curb ramps are in a poor state. So we're going to bring them up to compliance with the current standards. We'll put high visibility crosswalks where necessary, and also have ped signal upgrades at all signalized intersections. The other thing that we are going to address in this project is the drainage issue. As I mentioned, there are several driveway pipes that are undersized, and the drainage ditches have filled in over the years, which is causing problems to the pavement and flooding issues. So we'll address all of those by cleaning the existing ditches, replacing undersized pipes, and sometimes re-establishing ditches. We're going to make some sections into a closed drainage system as well. Again, I said the traffic signals. We are going to replace, so you will have a brand new traffic signal at South Roswell, Union Road, Borden, Aurora Street, and Bowen Road. So there you'll get the new signals which have the back plates and everything. As far as the signals at Harlem, Transit, Schwartz, and Town Line Road, the existing signals will remain, but we are going to do some repairs and upgrade the wiring as necessary, but the signals will remain as they are. The other thing we're trying to do is to make the traffic, to help the traffic to keep moving in a better fashion. We are going to coordinate the signals at Union Road, Indian Church, and Archer Avenue, so it will help the flow of traffic. We are, as Craig mentioned, we are also going to replace a large culvert near the Canisius football field. It's an existing 8x4 box that was installed in 1922. So we are going to replace it now with a 10x5 box culvert. This work we are going to do in 2 phases. It's called stage construction, so there will be no detour. The traffic will be moved to one side with a temporary signal. So it will probably last about 4 to 5 weeks. At St. Gabriel's Church, we are going to do some roadside widening. We had noticed that there were issues with the people wanting to turn left. So we have put a left turn bay in front of the church there, a 2-way left turn lane in front of the church. And then when you come to the intersection, it will transfer into a left turn bay. For this project, we are going to have to acquire some amount of right-of-way. Most of it is in the forms of strips, so that we could do the drainage work. There are 14 fee takes, 4 permanent easements, and 5 temporary easements. And the purpose is for new signal equipment, for culvert replacement, for the ADA curb ramps, for road widening and drainage work. The takes are considered minor. The smallest one is 21 square feet. That's to bring an existing signal pole back into our right-of-way. And then the biggest one is 11,609 square feet. That's by the church where we are widening. The project is going to be led, that means the opening of the bids is in March of 2020. The project will take 2 construction seasons to be completed, so it will be completed by the winter of 2021. So that was our presentation. If you have any questions.
The crossing improvements that you're talking about, are we looking at, like at the corner of Union and Clinton Street, are they gonna be crosswalks that will be pushed in? In other words, the curve will come out, which just seems to be the current style of doing it, because they're such wide streets in both directions. It takes more than 17 seconds sometimes to cross that road.
Are you asking if we're gonna put bump
Are
outs in
you
there?
gonna ball out or push it in?
I don't think we are.
We haven't looked at it to put bulb outs, but we are upgrading, as I said, the signal system, so the pedestrian phase will be adequate.
We can adjust the timing of the signal to allow, make sure that your average pedestrian can get across. There's heavy turning movements at that intersection.
Yes, there are.
So that makes it more difficult to put those bump outs in.
All great improvements. Truly, thank you so much.
Are you gonna be changing any elevations of the roads, like at Borden Road, where it crosses Clinton, there's a steep hill there? Are you gonna be changing any of those elevations?
No, there are no profile changes planned, so we won't be changing elevations.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Will there be any red lights added?
No new signals, no.
Okay, for example, there's a long stretch between Union Road and Borden Road. And one of the complaints I get from residents is it's, at times of the day, it's almost impossible to make a left turn and sometimes even a right turn onto Clinton Street. And, it would probably be valuable if there was some kind of light in the middle of that 2-mile stretch to break the traffic up.
Well, if the town has a specific location for the light, they could request the department to do a traffic study to see if that location meets the warrants necessary to install a signal. But we can't generally just go put up a light someplace just to try and provide a break in traffic if that, whatever is crossing at that point doesn't meet the warrants for installation of a traffic signal.
Okay, one more question for you. Sorry, boss. She was hoping with my voice being strained, I wouldn't say much. I went to a meeting, I think we all went to a meeting regarding improvements that are going to be made on Transit Road from Seneca around to Southwestern, including the possibility of removing the bridge. Are these projects going to be coordinated, or are they going to happen at the same time possibly?
We are looking at the existing bridge that carries, well, Transit Road or Southwestern Boulevard over Cazenovia Creek. We're doing a study now to determine whether or not that bridge can be rehabilitated or whether it will have to be replaced. So we actually have a consultant working on that right now, and they're examining the underside of the bridge. It's a very unique bridge because it's a reinforced concrete arch. I think it's actually 3 spans, but there's 2 arches in each span, and they're reinforced concrete, and we're trying to determine if the salt has gotten embedded deep enough in the concrete so that it's impossible for us to chip away the bad concrete and repair it. So once we get an answer to that, we're hoping to have that answer by the end of the year. Then we will go forward with a project to either replace that bridge or rehabilitate it.
And do you know the status of the project to widen Transit Road
Well, what
from
we want to do,
Seneca Street to Southwestern?
that project is still on the books, but we need to determine what we're going to do with the bridge. If we're going to build a completely new bridge, then the new bridge would be wider, and it would make sense then to widen the section of Transit Road from Seneca Street to the bridge. If we're going to keep the bridge that's there, which at its best carried 4 lanes of traffic, we've done an analysis, and although that's basically the only piece of Transit Road left that's less than 4 or 5 lanes, it functions adequately. So what we want to do is we want to address the bridge first, and then once we are sure what's going to happen to the bridge, then we can make a better recommendation as to what to do with the rest of the roadway.
Just curious on this one, can you tell me why that bridge was restricted to 1 lane in each direction?
Well, what I can tell you is the way that bridge is constructed, as I said, there's 2 arches that run lengthwise down the bridge, and then there's concrete floor beams that extend out over the arches, and there's deterioration of the concrete where the floor beam connects with the barrier system. So we put temporary barrier down so that, because the temporary barrier is safe, it can just sit there on its own, whereas we're beginning to worry about the connections between the existing railings and the edge of the bridge. So it's really an issue with the barrier that's currently on the bridge. And when we put the new barriers on, then you lose some width, and that's what's forcing us to restrict it to 1 lane in each direction.
Are there any other projects in the works that we may not know about yet?
Well, all the projects, if it's got federal aid, then it goes on the GDNRTC's plan and on the STIP. We update our schedule, in the spring of every year, and I can't recall any other projects, major projects that are happening here in West Seneca.
Would you be holding further public hearings on this particular project?
I don't think we're planning, well, we're going to go to the other towns and make presentations before all their boards, so that we're going to go to the town of Marilla, to the town of Elma, and
We were at the town of Chittiwaga.
But we already were at the town of Cheektowaga, so at those forums, we've described the work that's going on and we've talked about what we're planning to do. As Sancho said, this project, although it's a big project and will take a while to complete, we will be able to maintain traffic at all times. So there should be not a big effect on traffic or access anywhere.
So the only place that you're planning to add lanes would be at the church in Elma?
Yeah, at St. Gabriel's.
So it'll still be a two-lane highway?
It'll be a two-lane highway, but it'll be widened to allow vehicles that are turning left into the church to have some place to queue up.
And that's the only widening that will take place on the entire project?
Correct.
Did you do, are you gonna do neighbor notifications? We have a new business opening up at Transit in Clinton. I don't think it's open yet, but they're gonna be open very soon. I would think the first year might affect the way they do the business.
We can certainly provide information and either put it in hangars or put it in mailbox.
Once just before the project goes to construction,
Right.
the EIC will do the business, they send those flyers and.
Yeah, they'll be sending flyers out once the project's let and we actually know who the contractor's going to be, then we'll send a flyer around and that'll have information on where the field office is, what the name of the engineer in charge is, and what the name of the contractor is.
That would be nice, that would be helpful, especially to this new business that's just about to open up now.
Right, so that'll be happening probably in April or May, before construction actually starts.
Just another quick question about the actual construction of the road. What type, is this gonna be concrete based or is it gonna be
No, it's all asphalt.
asphalt?
Asphalt concrete. So as Sancho said, what we'll be doing is milling the existing top course of the pavement out and then replacing it.
So what
We call that as a glorified paving project.
Well, I mean, it's,
But with all the enhancements that you're doing, I must tell you, I'm very happy to see that you're going to replace that culvert near Canisius, because that in itself will have a positive effect on any flooding across the creek at Lexington Green. If you're able to have that larger siphon, so that's a huge positive. The whole project, including in front of that parish, that's all positive stuff. So I want to thank you for coming here today and bringing the town up to speed. But I will offer you this, the Transit Road Bridge is of great concern and it needs to be addressed. And I know it's been on the talking points for decades. But I would hope that, I know they pulled the sidewalk project part of the Transit Road to Seneca Creek, but I just hope they do something with that bridge.
well, we're gonna do something for sure, but we wanna make sure that what we do is the correct thing.
Good.
Replacing that bridge could be nearly $30 million.
And that's understandable, but what you were able to accomplish, and I don't know if you realize this, but I know we do, and I know the chief of police and I have discussed it. By making that 2 lanes on that bridge, you've reduced the speed and you've reduced a lot of accidents. We've had so many unfortunate fatalities there on Southwestern Boulevard, and anytime you can reduce any kind of fatalities or injuries is a positive. So by bringing it to those 2 lanes, it's definitely made a difference. But that bridge is probably one of the top 5 things I'd like to see happen. But I want to thank you both for coming today. Does anyone have any additional questions? Okay, thank you so much and have yourself a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Enjoy the weather. Okay, Chief Jones, do you have anything for us today?
I do not.
Oh, I just want to make a moment to thank you, Jacqueline, for reminding me I didn't approve the warrant. Make a motion?
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Chief Jones, do you have anything for us?
The only thing I have is I'd like to thank the board for appointing Greg. It was a very rigorous undertaking that he went through to get to this point, and I'm pretty sure you'll be very pleased in the outcome we will have with him coming out of the academy.
Thank you, Chief. We always trust your judgment. Matt English, do you have anything for us today?
I have nothing.
Okay, Jeff Basca, do you have anything for us?
Nothing today.
Very good. Jacqueline Felser, do you have anything for us today?
I do, actually. First of all, you didn't do any dedications, and I was hoping you could do
will dedicate the meeting to Mary Pilo.
And also, I just wanted to announce that our supervisor Megan was, for the second year in a row, she was named to Business First's Power 125 Women of Western New York.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jackie. Lauren Massett, do you have anything for us?
Just congratulations, and we are hiring for several different positions, so please see our website for more details on that and interview times.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. Steve Tanner, do you have anything?
You're number 3 on my list behind my wife and my mother.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Tanner. Thank you. Tina Hawthorne, do you have anything for us?
No, but well-deserved supervisor.
Thank you very much. That's very kind. Jean Hart, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the Veterans Memorial. Matt, you, I know there's been talk of installing some concrete pads to support the memorials once they're moved from the cemetery and out of storage. Have you got any update on that? Do we know when that might happen?
No, Jim Manley was gonna give me a call when he got back from vacation, and we were gonna have a meeting.
Okay. Do you know if our men would be moving those memorials from the cemetery?
No, we wouldn't move those.
Okay.
Bill Haley, do you have anything for us?
I'd like to congratulate you on your award. I did not know you received that for a second year in a row, but I do know how hard you work for the town, the residents of West Seneca, so congratulations.
It's an honor doing the people's work. Thank you, Bill. Okay, we're going to go into an executive session on 2 matters of 1, white-collar discipline, and 2nd, blue-collar discipline, and then we have 1 contractual legal real estate matter that we need to discuss. So I need a second.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Before I go, I just want to let everyone know that Erie County Water Authority, a contractor, is replacing a water main on Norwood and Union Road starting this Wednesday morning. We'll be installing a new main in Union Road. They will be setting up lane closures at 8:30 a.m. from Main Street to Norwood on the east side of Union. New York State DOT is limiting their closure from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. They estimate this work will take about a week. They will also be temporarily patching and pavement each day throughout the project until its completion. The east side of Union Road will be milled and paved from Main to Norwood. Just a public notification. Okay. Apologize, matters of the public. Does anybody have anything for us before we go into an executive session? Sir, yes, just come right on up. Thank you again. Have a great night. Drive safe.
Hello, Jim Randolph, West Berwood, in town. This question is for Tina Hawthorne, and it's a clarification really with regards to the code of ethics. I had some questions. One is, in reading over the interest, I note that it's pretty broad with regards to individuals that would be deemed associated with an official. What it didn't include was grandchild or parents, and I was wondering if that was intended or not.
So the actual discussion of the ethics code will take place at the public hearing, which will be the next meeting. I am not the attorney to the ethics board. Mr. John Lanier is the attorney to the ethics board, so he helped them draft this. So I can't speak to the intent. I know the ethics board will be here at the public hearing to address and give a presentation on it. And so if you're able to come to that, I think they could directly address your questions.
Well, would it be okay if I'm not sure if I'll be able to or not, if I could have my questions recorded and then readdressed at the meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay. There was another question I had with regards to penalties, and what I was concerned with is that there's a forfeiture pay, suspension, removal from office or employment, or such discipline action as the board.
What section are you on?
Penalties 13.4. Okay. and it's item number 1.
Okay.
And what concerned me with that is that if there was an alleged issue with one of the board members, you would have the board member reviewing their own actions. And I was thinking that perhaps you'd have an alternative independent party when you should have an alleged incident, ethics incident with the board.
Yeah, I follow your thinking.
Okay. And the last thing I was thinking about was with regards to wrongdoing, and that's D, and that's when you have a town board member official, and in particular I'm concerned about with respect to the town board member. If a town board member is recusing themselves, I think they should not only recuse themselves from voting, but also from voicing an opinion. And the reason for that is there's such weight on the board members' opinions that it might sway others within the board, given their association. So I think they should just recuse themselves altogether, like they would in the Supreme Court.
So perhaps they can work on the language, but I would say that once there's a recusal, they're not part of those any discussions,
That's
right?
appropriate, right, that's right.
Mhm. And that's normally how it works, but the language might need clarity.
Yeah.
If there's an accusation, Tina, then it's, I believe what happens is it goes into an executive session of the ethics board. All right, and then if the next step would be similar to a public trial, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be similar to a public trial of the board member who may have violated the code of ethics.
I don't know that I would use the term public trial, but any alleged violation of the ethics code would first go to the ethics board. And then certainly if anyone on the ethics board felt like they needed to recuse themselves, they would. There would be, it's all handled in an executive session. Our current code requires that it be confidential in nature. And so that person wouldn't be a part of those discussions. It's only once there's a recommendation from the ethics board, both on whether or not an alleged employee violated the code and or what the discipline should be, then it would move on to the town board, which is probably where you're really coming from, is once it gets to the town board, a board member shouldn't have influence or discussions or opinions is what you're putting forward when it's their own board that's making a decision about them.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, I did have a separate question, and this is for Mr. Hart. Recently in the Sun, there was an article talking about the Birchfield project and the appeal. And initially it was reported that the initial cost of the appeal was $5,000, but as was reported at the Sun, they stated through information that it's already cost $61,000. And I was wondering if there's a revised estimate that you might have, and or whether you feel that we should continue to go forward given those costs.
The estimate was in addition to monies that have been spent previously, and the town attorney may be able to enter that better than I can. We were just estimating what the appeal part of it would cost, in addition to what was already expended.
So is that being revised?
I have no idea at this moment. I'm not completely up to date on what the status of the appeal is. It's with the attorneys, and I would expect sometime in the near future we'll get a some sort of presentation or response from them as to whether we should go forward.
Okay.
I didn't see the article you're referring to, but I know that the request, we had a FOIL request about what had been spent on litigation thus far, and that was part of it, but at no point did I provide any estimate of what the continued cost would be for the Sun to publish.
Well, right now or otherwise, the Sun quoted Mr. Hart, so that's why I'm bringing
I see.
That was a number that had been given to me amongst the board members discussing whether we should go forward with it.
So it's too hard to ever put an estimation on litigation, quite frankly, especially something in the appeal process.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Anyone further?
Hi everyone, my name is Mike Roberts. I live at 76 Chancellor Lane. I was interested to hear what the attorney was saying, because several, and this is to the ethics issues.
Okay, we're having a public hearing on that.
Yeah, well, that wasn't delineated on here. It was said you were gonna talk about the revisions of the ethics code. So I just have a general question, I'll be short. Several years ago, I had an issue before the planning board that, it was me on one side of the issue, it was Morano on the other side of the issue. The 3 or 4 members of the planning board had to recuse themselves from that debate, or from that issue, for voting on that issue, because of their direct or indirect financial ties to Morano Construction. That did not, though, stop the chairman, who was one of the recused members, from leading the whole debate right down my throat. Does the new ethics code address people who are appointed to town boards who will sit in judgment over issues in which they benefit directly or indirectly from, which they might possibly be judging issues that come before them in a way that would enhance or detract from their own financial gain?
So
is that funny? Is
that's
that real funny? Are you laughing? What's so funny?
I was talking to Lauren, which I'm allowed to do. This is not an issue for me, so I apologize.
Okay. So the bottom line is, are these people that work for Morano gonna be able to sit on the planning board?
So you will see that, I'm assuming you've taken a look at the code, and in there will be disclosures about interest that everybody needs to complete if you're sitting on any board. I don't know exactly what happened in that scenario, that predates me, so I don't think it would be prudent for me to comment on that, but I would say that anyone who recuses themselves would not sit in judgment because they would no longer have a voting right. To answer your question with a yes or no, I can't, because it was a pretty complex, compound question.
So the answer is no, it does not preclude that, and
No, I think there's things in there that do address it, but the way you worded the question, I can't answer it yes or no without being wrong in some way.
I guess that answers the question as well as it can be answered. The conflict of interest that exists there was so naked that
It does address conflict of interest, and I would suggest, if you've had an opportunity to review the code, and even if I think our ethics board has their emails online, if you have suggested sections that you think the wording needs to be clearer or address certain situations, then if you can't come to the public hearing, then maybe that's a way to deal with it.
well, no, I will come to a public hearing, but
Oh, okay.
I hope so, but, just as a matter of course, historically, this happened. They were recused, they led the debate, and it was for Morano Construction, it was about the planning board, it was about Princeton's Park.
So I think the best way, though, for you to probably get your point across would be to think about how that situation could be addressed in the code without us getting bogged down on what happened in that specific set of facts. And so maybe when you come to the public hearing, you could have suggestions for that.
My language might be more succinct, but you should revisit that issue with the town employees.
I will definitely let the ethics board
And
know it was
Mr.
raised.
Roberts, just so you know, that if they recuse themselves, they are not a part of any of the discussion.
That's what I thought, and I looked it up, and they can be. It doesn't, the Robert's Rules of Order does not preclude somebody who recuses themselves from, they don't have to take themselves out of the debate, which shocked me. They could still be in the debate, which, okay, that's fine.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't
So
be, but
since I've been here, which has only been January, but I've had an issue with a board member recusing themselves, and they weren't part of that. So I think that's typically the practice, although it may not be in Robert's rules. And it's probably the best practice.
there's a lot of reason to recuse, but direct conflict, financial conflict of interest is the most obvious.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Right here, this one paragraph may answer your question. It says, no town official, none of these have been voted on yet because we haven't had the public discussion.
Right.
So it says, no town official, officer, or employee shall accept employment by a person, firm, corporation, which he or his department, office, or agency is engaged in, on behalf of the town or transactions of business which may affect by his official action. So I believe that answers your question. It'll be debated during
In
the
theory,
questions.
it answers it, but in
Yes.
practice, it's.
Another
And it
issue.
goes on to it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the secretary.
Yeah.
Thank
Deal
you.
with this issue.
Another thought on that too would be that, and as I said, I have not read, I just got this a couple of days ago, so I haven't read the whole thing in detail yet, but, if somebody recluses, they should actually absent themselves from that, board meeting that's discussing that issue where they recluse. And, I don't know, Tina, if that's in here or not, but maybe it should be
It's
stated.
not in that
with-
particular paragraph, but I will, let the ethics board know some of the issues that were raised here tonight, invite them to review the recording so that they're prepared to address those.
See, I would expect the person that recluse to leave the meeting. I think that did in fact happen in the ethics board recently.
Well, I'm glad you're working on this, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Okay, then I'm going to make a motion to move into an executive session.
Second.
Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
For all
You,
those men and women who have
excuse me?
served this great country and continue to serve, I thank you.
Don't we have to say specifically why?
I already did, I named it already.
Did you?
Yes.
For what reason? Personnel matter?
We have two, just my white and blue, and we have, legal matter for, I don't have